Adrian. I just wanted to talk about something today which I've had quite a few messages about, and also something that I've definitely, well, I continually have, which is when your technique basically doesn't match the songs or the musical material that you need to play. And I've had this, you know, I still have this. There's still songs that when I see them on a set list, I go, oh gosh, I still can't quite pull that off. I might be able to for half a song, but then for the rest, it's kind of, I have to sort of adapt. But anyway, I wanted to talk about it because I think that although it's important, you know, to have great technique and to be able to play things, I think if you're going into a gigging situation where it's in public and people are listening to you and you want to do a good job and you want to sound good, also you're playing with other people, and well, you'd hope you're playing with other people. You might not be, you might be playing to a backing track. Anyway, but if you're playing with other people, in fact, no, it applies if you're playing to a backing track as well, if not more so, because there's less leeway. But you want to be solid. You want to be sitting on that track or within that track. You don't want to be kind of teetering on the edge of falling off of it. And that's like, yeah, the worst thing. So I just wanted to talk about how I approach songs that I maybe can't physically play, or it's not just a speed thing. It might not be it could be a speed thing. Maybe my hands aren't quick enough, but also like the placement. Maybe the feel of it means that I can't get the bass drum in quite the right place consistently. I might be able to a couple of times, but then it might sound like awkward other times. And it's just about creating parts that work for you and make you feel solid. So that's all we got to do, be solid. So what I do is I'm trying to think if there's a specific example that I can use. Oh, I'm sure I'll think of one in a minute, but what I'll do is I'll listen to a song, I'll chart it out, because that's what I always do, I always chart out new songs. And then I listen to the kind of feel that it has. And obviously I would have ascertained by this point that the parts I'm going, oh gosh, I'm probably not going to be able to play that like it is, at least not to my standard that I want to, which is solid and confidently, because if you haven't got that, you ain't got anything in my books. So what I'll do is I'll listen to the feel and say it's like a shuffle kind of feel. I'm like, okay, right, it's a shuffle, but it's doing something really awkward on the kick drum, which is really, I know me, and if I try and play it, it's gonna sound a bit like unbalanced. And you know, I am self-confessed not the greatest drummer in the world. I would never ever say that about myself, like never ever. But like I said, I've managed to make a living from it, so these things seem to work. So anyway, getting back to this. So okay, right, it's got this kick drum thing pattern and I can't really play it solidly within that groove, and every time I try it, I kind of fall off it. Sometimes I hit it, sometimes I don't. Okay, so what can I do? And I'll create a pattern which maybe either substitutes maybe like a snare instead, or even a floor tom sometimes, rarely to be honest, because I like to keep the flow of a track going, and I think that the flow of a track and the flow and the feel is much more important than the sort of technicalities. And the other thing that you have to realize is that the majority of the time when you're playing with other musicians, if you're a drummer like myself, the other band members are not. And actually, they don't hear, you know, the little nuances that your ears are tuned into. They might, and you know, good for them, that's great if they do. But if you can still convey the song in the right feel, they're not going to stop the song and go, sorry, that's you missed out that snare drum there. If it's feeling right and you're confident and you're solid, that kind of trumps everything. And okay, if it is a really, really iconic pattern, and they can see, I'm sure that they'll see what you're doing, they're not gonna chastise you for it. It's like, okay, cool, you're adapting, you're making it work. That's the main thing. Just make it work, but don't be tentative about it. If you're going to play it, dig in, you know, just be confident about it, because there's nothing worse than someone sort of trying to do something and being timid or, like I say, tentative, and it will sound wobbly, because that's probably how you feel about it, not very confident, and yeah, and that will come across. Whereas if you're like, okay, this isn't the part, but it's the right feel, and I'm getting the essence of this, and I'm going to make it work, great. People are like that, and as long as they're moving to it, perfect. Then that's just absolutely fine. Yeah, so I think that this is something that I've kind of picked up over the years. Obviously, it's slightly different if you're, like I say, if there's a very iconic part, if it's in a covers gig, or an iconic part if you're in a session gig. If you maybe can't do the things that you need to on a session gig, if you can't rectify that in some way, like for instance, okay, perfect example, I was playing with an artist and there was a lot of electronics involved, and there was this kick drum pattern, and in fact, this has happened more than once now that I'm thinking about it. So there's a kick drum pattern on a couple of songs that I can remember, heavily electronic, luckily, which I just couldn't play. I just couldn't play it like consistently enough and solidly enough. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And then I realised, hey, I'm playing electronics, this is great. So I had my regular kick on my kick drum, I had this Fat Cat on my right foot, and then I had another kick drum, well, in different places, but on another pad with my hands. So I was able to use my hands to imitate the kick part, and as far as the audience now out front, that's the part. So you kind of, like I say, you make it work and you adapt. And yes, the people on stage with you might take the mic, and that's fine. It's all par for the course. You're always going to get the mic taken out of you by people on stage about something, so hey, it's all good. But if you can then go away and sort of like work on that and come back strong, as long as you're always strong, then no one can really complain. As long as it sounds good, feels good, people can lock in with you, and you're not the one that's sort of like tipping it off balance, then you're kind of sweet as. Yeah, so I think that's in fact, I wanted to also say, I wanted to give a shout out to Kim Miller, who is the one who originally asked me this question like ages ago, and I said that I would do this video. And since then, there's also someone else that has got in touch, and I'm going to read this so that I get his name right. So it's Ezekiel Clifford Hill, who is an amazing guy. So he's a drummer. I can't remember where he's from the States somewhere, I'm pretty certain. And he has cerebral palsy. And what that means is that he has no strength in his feet. So he has to do exactly that. He has to adapt. So he will use the floor tom to get patterns between the feet and the hands. And he's constantly trying to build up the speed of his feet, even though he has this condition which makes it, I wouldn't even want to put a number on it, but so many times harder for him to do it than anyone else. But he's just like, no, I'm doing it. Like, it's not even an option. It's just when, it's not if. And yeah, that made me feel very inspired and very humbled. So I thought that I should do this video. I should definitely give him a shout out, and Kim, who is brilliant. She kind of, we met and she had been sort of playing, and then she sort of built up her confidence a little bit, and then she started sort of playing with this band, and she's sort of going, oh, I don't know, they seem happy, so that's good. And I just know where she's at in her head, because I've been there, you know, I'm still like that sometimes. And she's just going from strength to strength. So for both of them, they're both incredibly inspiring and brave, and yeah, it inspires me to keep working on things like that. I should probably tell you the songs that I'm talking about that I had to program the kick drums. So one of them was for an artist called Rosie Lowe, and I can't remember the name of the song, which is awful, and I apologise, but it has been about 3 years since I've played with her, or 2 years. 2 years? 3? I don't know. 2 years, let's say 2 years. And the other one is with Tom Bailey. I still have this part programmed because I just think it sounds great, like when it's played with the hands. And that's Love on Your Side. So if you ever see me playing that song and you hear that kick drum, so it's like dun da dun da 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 dum. Okay, so the da da is on the tom and that's the kick drum. If you ever see me playing that, just point at me and be like, I know. And yeah, like I say, I get the mick taken out of me for that. Mainly by Johnny Atkinson, actually, ever since the first tour we did together, and he still takes the mick. And it's fair enough, really. I'd probably do the same. In fact, I do the same, so family, innit? Anyway, I hope you guys are having an awesome day, and I'll be back again talking about another subject, rambling on at you. Yeah, until then, I'll see you later.